Yeah.
Yes, ok. Agora está sendo gravado. Futuramente nós vamos inserir no nosso canal do YouTube as legendas. E aí o link também vamos colocar para vocês poderem acessar futuramente. Também ao final vamos falar rapidamente sobre possibilidades de nós mantermos em contato interagindo, porque esse seminário é o primeiro de uma série dos eventos muito interessantes, eu espero, ao longo desse semestre. Então, finalizando já minha fala, gostaria de agradecer aos nossos palestrantes por aceitarem estar aqui conosco, para alguns muito tarde. Muito obrigada mesmo pela disposição. Eu sei que as agendas de vocês não são fáceis. E agradeço também a presença de todos os participantes. Eu espero que tenham uma enriquecedora discussão pela frente. Então, sejam bem-vindos todos, todas e todos. Oh well, I will now switch to English. Hi, hello, welcome everybody to this first seminar of the Rio de Janeiro Conservation and Sustainability Science Center. This center is it's like a lab, it's like a research lab at the Pontifical Catholic University of Rio de Janeiro. My name is Agnieszka, and I'm a professor at the Department of Geography and the Environment at PUC Rio, and also I'm coordinator of the center. So we have some 7 prominent professionals from the field of sustainability science, and each participant will give a brief 3 to 5 minute presentation on their professional trajectory, experiences, and interests. The presentation will be in English, but the main points will be highlighted in Portuguese through the chat. And the dynamics of the event will be a round table with 3 central questions that we will be discussing for 10 minutes each question. All participants of the event are very much invited to interact through the chat. Everybody is muted just to avoid the background noise. But we will try to address most of the comments through the chat, and if there is also space for discussion at the end. Then the seminar is being recorded, and we will insert later on Legendas in Portuguese, and it will be available through our YouTube channel, that the link will be also available on the chat. At the end, I will also come back with final remarks around 7 p.m. And also talk a little bit about the ways how we can interact within the center. And about the next seminars. So thank you very much. I would like to extend my heartfelt thank you to palestrantes, to our speakers. I know that your schedule is not easy, and especially given this time difference. So thank you very much for being with us. I wish everybody a great event, and I would like to invite Ebba to start the presentation.
Thank you so much. Let's see here if I manage to share my screen. Does it look good?
Yes.
Yes, okay, great. So, boa tarde ou boa noite aqui na Suécia. I want to say thank you so much to Aga and the team for the invitation. I'm so happy to be here with you tonight and to see so many, well, both familiar and new faces in Zoom. My name is Eva Brink. I'm a postdoc at the Center for Sustainability Science at Lund University, Sweden. And I completed my PhD in sustainability science in 2018 on climate change adaptation in Swedish coastal municipalities. But my background is from a very different field, engineering, mathematics, and risk, which you wouldn't imagine if you look at the kind of research I do today, which is more kind of interdisciplinary social science. I've come a long way from mathematics. And Rio de Janeiro actually had a special role in my journey from the technical sciences to sustainability science. Because I came to Rio in 2010 to collect data for my master's thesis in the area of risk management, which was supposed to be a quantitative examination of the relationship between people's level of disaster risk and their level of education in the community or the favela of Rocinha in Rio. But I ended up finding all these social science aspects of disaster risk much more fascinating, like who is at risk and why do people fight to stay in risk areas? And this is not only in Brazil, but it was something I also saw during my PhD work in Sweden. And what are the kind of everyday ways that people are adapting to climate hazards like floods and heat waves? So I was very fascinating by all this, and I really felt like I had found my calling. And nowadays, the main focus of my research is on the social dimensions of urban risk and urban nature. And as a sustainability scientist, I draw on theories and methods from different disciplines. And sometimes I also do research together with stakeholders like municipal planners, and you can call that transdisciplinarity. And this thing with researchers working with and for society, you're very good at in Brazil because you have this thing called extensão. But I'm also a teacher in our sustainability science program, and especially in a course we have on resilience and sustainable development. And I think today is a really nice opportunity to share our diverse experiences as sustainability scientists, and also to see what kind of skills those of you who are working out in industry and organizations are putting to use. And since I'm also representing the academic perspective, I couldn't help but bring a bit of theory here today. So what are the kind of skills that the research says that sustainability scientists need? And maybe we can talk about these later in the discussion. Well, they say that what we need is firstly systems thinking. So being able to do different kinds of qualitative and quantitative modeling, thinking about social, ecological, technical systems and being able to analyze them, and also to understand these different feedback loops, cascading effects from the local to the global scale. And then we need to be able to think about the future, about uncertainty, risks, and changes that are happening, to be able to draw up scenarios or visions for the future. How do we want the future to look? And some of them you can use participatory methods to draw up these visions together with other people, but also to think about concepts like intergenerational equity. And then we need to be able to think about values, the normative questions of sustainability science. And those include both the goals and metrics, where do we want to go, and positive concepts like justice and fairness and happiness, but also the things that we don't want, like risk, harm, or damage, and different systems of ethics that we are applying in our work in trying to influence society. And then sustainability scientists also need strategic competence, because we are all the time working with these concepts of transition, transformation, or how to make systemic interventions for sustainability. And finally, we also need some kind of interpersonal competence to put all these knowledges to use. So that can take the form of leadership, cooperation, empathy, methods for participation and teamwork, and so on. But now I would like to hand over the word to the next speaker, who is Gabriel.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Eba. Do you want me to? Yes. Hello, everyone. So my name is Gabriel Neiravuto, as you can see, and yeah, I'm really thrilled to be here today. Thanks for the invitation. Book Rio, and I'm really happy to see this type of programs, thriving in Brazil. I'm in Brazil right now. I'm in actually my holidays, so I took some time to participate today with you all. You can pass, please, Eba, this slide. And a bit of my, before talking a little bit about my journey, sustainability, I really want to take time to celebrate you all. I really believe that we really need leaders, sustainability leaders. And I think you all are putting time and energy into this task of become sustainability scientists. And we really need more of those. And so thank you for that. And congratulations also. Yeah, please, Eba. I'm from Brazil. I'm from Rio de Janeiro. But I grew up in Nova Friburgo, which is a small city up in the mountains. So I was lucky enough to be in one of the biggest patches of Atlantic forest. So instead of going to cinemas and bars and everything, I was bathing in rivers and climbing trees. And I think that really molded my ecological perspective and my love for nature. I ended up studying biology, and I see some of my colleagues here in Universidade Federal do Rio de Janeiro. My first work was in conservation, nature conservation, and GIS, so Geographic Information Systems. So I was using satellite imagery and other powerful tools to support nature conservation. Can you something? Yes, great. Yeah, so after that, I really felt that I needed to work on the ground and more social perspective. So I ended up also working the favelas as Eba. That's why actually how we met each other. I was working in Rocinha. I co-founded an NGO there called Favela Verde. We're going to talk a little bit more about that work. We also won a prize from the City Hall in 2015. From that very complex and dense environment, I then won a scholarship to work in for a fellowship in Europe in leadership for sustainability. And I went to work in a very little village in Portugal that was actually dying. There was huge demographic issues. So it was really interesting to go from Rocinha to a village that was like no one. I spent 5 days without seeing any kid. It's really interesting. And then from that, I went to study in Sweden. I went to do a master in strategic leadership towards sustainability in the little city of Karlskrona. Founded a little consultancy called Transition Lab, worked a little bit in Malmö as well, then in Sweden and Denmark. Then I went to work in London with a big player in real estate development and operation, a co-living sector. So yeah, it was really a different environment than Rocinha and the favelas. Also was my first experience in the corporate sector as a sustainability manager and impact manager. From that, I also was lucky enough to be invited by Lund University, also with Eba, to teach also leadership for sustainability in the International Master's Program in Environmental Studies and Sustainability Science in Lund University. And my most recent professional experiences in Lisbon, I am a principal ESG facilitator and consultant in the Business Council for Sustainable Development. So really focusing on developing and implementing training for the business sector. But for today, I would like to, before focus on one specific experience, which is my experience in the favela. So you can please pass the slide, Leber. the next one. Yeah, and I think we are all talking about skills, and I think you will be able to make some connections with the theory that Eva just presented. So those are the top skills which World Economic Forum released in 2020, if I'm not wrong. And yeah, you will see, and I believe that most of those skills are really interconnected with the sustainability sciences. And I hope you all can also see some connections with the work that I will very quickly present right now in the favela. So yeah, everybody, if you can pass the slide, please. So yeah, so the NGO I co-founded is called Favela Verde. We were focusing on urban sustainability and social participation. So we developed a participatory methodology for the favelas neighboring protected landscapes in Rio de Janeiro. So our study area was called Vila Laborió. If you can please pass the slide, Eva. In Favela da Rocinha. So a neighborhood in Favela da Rocinha, and you see is the top of the hill, right? So it's where the favela touches the forest. So please pass the slide, Eva. You can see that's like a very interesting contrast, right? So one of the most dense, complex urban environments, and yeah, one of the most beautiful ecosystems also, which is Atlantic forest. So we were working in one of the strategic external areas of Parque Nacional da Tijuca, which is one of the most parks in Brazil, together with Foz do Iguaçu. So now I'm gonna just go through some of let's say the core theory, I might say, that we use for this project. We call the power of 3 A's. Can you please pass this slide, Eva? Yeah, and we call the power of 3 A's, so awareness, agency, and association. And I believe that that's very important, or have been very important, not for only this work in sustainability science, but also for other professional experiences. So yeah, I will explain a little bit more on each one of these A's. So you can please pass forward, Eva. Yeah, when I say awareness, I think like it's very important for the people to understand the challenge that they are operating from within. So we really thought that was very needed for people to understand the scale of the issue that we're facing, right? The structure of the issue they were facing, the urgency of the issue they were facing. So construct the solutions with the dwellers, with the residents. And we didn't want to come to the favela with a pre-fabricated solution, right? We wanted to construct that with them. So that just shows like for instance, like a iconographic questionnaire that we constructed, and we use the icons because yeah, we know that not everyone could read very well. So like that's also important to have this care towards the niche, towards the audience that you're working with, right? So we also do like a little SWOT analysis with the residents. As you can see here, we also use a little bit of geographic information system with the residents, so they can point out the negative and positive things about their area. So you can please pass forward, Eva. And it was very important to think outside the box. So we also did a little diagnose with the kids. Of course, using like drawings instead of words and questionnaires and so forth. And a little activities with plants and like showing them the need, a little bit of ecosystemic services, but like through very playful experiences. We also screened a documentary called Evictions, Emoções, which is a very interesting time, and we even made it very accessible for everyone, as you can see in the photo. Yeah, so then have a very critical view over what they created, right? Like where they were living, what's part of their history, actually, living in a favela. Yeah, please pass forward, Eva. I have to be a bit quicker. Yeah, agency. So after they understand the challenge, it's very important that they see ways that they can act, right? And everyone wants to act, right? And it's very important that you create ways of participation, right? So otherwise people just stay disconnected. They need to belong. They need to feel this sense of ownership of the project also. Yes, please post forward, Eva. We are almost ending. I'm gonna go through very quickly. So yeah, different levels of participation, open in different times for people, space for people to also participate. Yeah, please pass forward. We're gonna go a bit quicker now. And the last day, association, right? Like we just needed to find organizations that were willing to also support us. Like nobody does anything by themselves. So like it was very important to find partners in the government, parts in the third sector, also in the private sector, as you can see here. Please, pass forward. Yeah, and also throughout our own project, we did some punctual acupuncture activities, which kept the project alive for the residents. Also, being arts, music, and use a lot of arts for that means. Yeah, next one. We almost there. Yeah, lessons learned. I think like just to close it, it's very important to understand the constructed knowledge, right? When you enter in a environment that is that complex, but also that deprived, maybe you arrive with the feeling that's like, oh, this environment needs everything, no? Like anything that we can afford, they will be needed. But no, like I think as Paulo Freire also said, like there's a constructed knowledge that has to be valued and has to be understood if you want to construct something long term. And also the beauty of the favela, like the sustainability that is inside the favela already, like the public spaces are already used for leisure. A lot of people use public transports. Like, yeah, I think that could be translated actually the foremost city, right, from the favelas that we are not seeing. Yeah, I think that's it. Maybe the last one.
That's great. Thank you, Gabriel. That was quite exhaustive, and I think it already touched upon some of the questions that we will be discussing during our time for roundtable. So thank you so much. Let's go now to Vicente.
Thank you, Aga. Thank you, everyone, for the invitation. I'm going to time myself so I don't go through the 5 minutes. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Vicente Gonzalez. I am from Chile. I wanted to do this in Portuguese, but I mean, given that my mother tongue is Spanish, I'm always inserting Spanish words, so I end up speaking a very ugly Portuñol. So I apologize. So I studied first, I studied business and economy, and I began working, like I worked in the private sector. I worked in mutual funds, and then I did like this long trajectory within digital marketing. But to be super honest, I was feeling unmotivated after a couple of years because I felt that working 8 hours a day for just raising a company stock was not what I wanted. It sounds super cold, but that's super honest and the way I felt. So at the same time, I discovered sustainability. I discovered sustainable development, that concept, and it made total sense to me. And I decided to go for it. And after a career of 7-8 years, I went to Sweden and studied sustainability there in Lund University. And it was my internal process was very interesting because my beliefs were super challenged there. All these notions about economic growth, about development, all this, what I heard, what I learned in my university back here in Chile was, I didn't know, it was super questioned. So it was a very, very nice and interesting journey to learn how there are different views and critical ways of viewing the things that we think are dominant and things that we already have acquired, but we don't know, we can't criticize them. So it was very interesting. And that is my first like big message. This is linked to what Gabriel says. I think that every person that works in sustainability, because you don't have to be a sustainability scientist, You can do whatever you want, but still, I mean, you don't have to be a scientist in order to actually contribute to the topic. So I think to be a critical thinker is very important, because if you think about it, all the dominant paradigms that we operate, the way that we organize as human beings, have taken us to the present environmental emergency and all the social disruptions we're seeing, right? So I think it's super critical for us sustainability people to be critical. And well, nowadays I'm working in the FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization for the United Nations. I work in the partnerships division. What we do basically is we try to link in different countries of the region, Latin America and the Caribbean. We try to link governments, civil society, academia, and the private sector in order for them to work this collaborative work. So all the FAO objectives are met. The FAO objectives they're super basic. They're like, I mean, basic. It's easy to explain them, but it's very hard to pursue them and to actually accomplish them. It's like basically include rural societies, help rural societies develop, and hunger and malnutrition, and help transforming food systems so they become more sustainable. So my message here about the FAO is that I've noticed in the field how important it is to work with people from different disciplines, and not just people from different disciplines, also people without disciplines. It's very important for us to understand that the dominant way of seeing knowledge is what you learn in universities, right? Or in formal education. But people that work in sustainability need to be, in my opinion, need to be champions of this shift to this transdisciplinarity. Like people that doesn't have formal education, it's not necessarily what's the word? Like they not necessarily are like people that doesn't have anything to share. Everyone has a piece of the truth, and it's super important that we know that. So we include everyone and we work together. And to finalize, I wanted to remind you guys that we, people that work in sustainability, we're still a niche. We're still a niche science. We are like this counter-hegemonic voice of the hegemonic paradigms. So it's super important that we work together, we stay in touch, because I think that together we're going to be stronger, and we need to amplify our voices for the sake of the future generations, and also people that is not enjoying the best living standards nowadays. Well, that's it. Thank you.
Wonderful, Vicente. Thank you so much. We will come back to that, but there are many important messages already in your talk. So I would like now to move on to Maria.
Yeah, hello, nice to meet you all. Thanks for inviting me. Starting from where Vicente started, I also wanted to do this in Portuguese, but given that I don't know a single word, I think that would be very short. So I continue in English instead. But my name is Maria Santmark. My background is in sustainability science, also from Lund University. It seems like a common denominator here. And I did my master's in sustainability science because I was very interested in how we came to the position the world is in today, and how we could use the current system to change it if we could not change to a new system. And after that education, I went on and I became sustainability manager for the largest frozen food company in Europe. And I was heading the Nordic region in sustainability. And that was a very interesting role because I had access to many different parts of the company and learned a lot about not only sustainability, but also what hinders sustainability. Because one very interesting experience in that job was that I felt that, especially in the Nordic region, we had such a good management team, such a good Nordic board, but still, and they were all behind this kind of sustainability path. Yes, we should go there, we should invest in this, we should do this, but still we didn't really manage to get to the results we wanted. And I was part of this management team. I was part of the Nordic board. And when I left that job, I started thinking, was I a crappy sustainability manager, or was there something in my way that hindered me from or hindered the company to progress as we wanted? And then I identified 3 things that I thought was really blockers for change. And one was the lack of data. So when I was in all of these leadership meetings and management meetings and board meetings, we would look at financial data, at sales data, at any business critical data. And that would be a month old or a year or a week old. But when we looked at sustainability data, that we only did once yearly when we had done our sustainability report. And then that data was already 15 to 18 months old. So I really saw that this kind of lack of up-to-date and high-quality data was one of the blockers for change. The second blocker I identified was the lack of knowledge. I was the only one in the Nordic region, in Nomad Foods as a whole, where I worked. We were 5,000 people, and we were 3 people employed in sustainability, whereas 2 of them had no previous experience from sustainability. And the third blocker was the organizational and cultural problems in the way. And then there are quite many in large organizations that hinder sustainability change. So when I left that job, I thought about what's the fastest way to change, because we all know that we don't have that much time. We need to not only do this very massive change, we also need to do it fast. And the conclusion I came to is that if we can give access to data, we can also give access to power to this sphere, and we can factor in sustainability in every business decision. And the thing with data is that it also gives knowledge, more knowledge about your business, and that can drive cultural and organizational norms. So I started to think about how to give access to data, to sustainability data, as often as any other business critical data. And that's when I founded Sustain Lab. So I did that 2 years ago. I co-founded Sustain Lab together with my co-founder Kamali, as a PhD in computer science, so come from a completely different space. And what we're doing is that we automate sustainability data handling for companies or organizations as well, so they can have access to sustainability data as often as any other business critical data. And our bet is that will kind of change this and speed up the sustainability transition and accelerate the change we need to see. So I have a bit of a different perspective and background, being also from the tech side and the data side, which I think is super interesting, because there's nothing inherently good or bad in neither data nor technology. It's how we use it. And so far we have used a lot of technology and a lot of data to get to really, really bad decisions globally and put us in a really crappy situation. But of course, we can also use data and technology to get us out of the situation we're in into a much better state. So that is one of my main interests. How can data and technology help in this sustainability transition? And what knowledge do we need then to actually take the right decisions to have the help from data and technology that we need? So that I hope I can contribute with in the discussions later.
Thank you very much, Maria. And it's interesting because what we are seeing, it's not only the background of sustainability scientists, but also the way forward. And indeed, we are in the niche. And to close many of the gaps, well, there are more questions than answers, which is great. But I will not take time and move forward to Diego.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Diego, I'm from Brazil, I live in Rio, and I work with actually the entertainment industry for more than 20 years, so films and television. And now I'm doing a master in science of sustainability. So my main focus is the relation between content and sustainability, how content can promote the idea of sustainability, how it can connect people to initiatives, and how can people learn from content. Also, how can it promote behavior change? It's part of my thesis. So I'm studying some behavior change models to understand what I can bring from them to the content to make more relatable to people. Since I started the master, I had the chance to do some trainings with RARE, the company that has a behavior change department. And also I had the chance to work on a challenge with Ghent University to redesign a district in Krakow. And my team got the first place. So they were trying to show our design to the mayor. And now I'm very happy because actually I'm working on an event here in Rio. It's called Rio to See. So it's the biggest creative event in Latin America. And this year they are starting a new stage. It's called Biodome, and the main pillar of the stage is sustainability. So it's amazing to be part of this change and also to promote this bridge. I think that's something that's really important, to build bridges with actually areas and sectors that not always relate themselves with sustainability. So it's actually a challenge and also I think an opportunity, to bring so many different themes and subjects to professionals that may have their first contact with those in the event. And I'm very happy to be here. I'm thankful to Aga and to everybody. I think we need more opportunities like that, more chances to discuss sustainability from different perspectives, different points of view, cultures. So I totally agree with Vicente. I think it's very important. And well, I'm glad to be here and I'm looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would just like to comment that Ebba is kindly translating some of the key points that are being spoken and is translating to Portuguese. Thank you so much, Ebba. And let's go to Lauren. Oh, sorry, I need to...
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Thanks so much for having me. It's lovely to be here. My name is Lauren, and I currently work at the Initiative for Climate Action and Transparency, which is an initiative under the UN, and I'm based out of the UN city in Copenhagen. Essentially what we do, or what we try to do, is help countries to better assess the impact of their climate policies and actions, and in that way help them to fulfill their transparency commitments under the Paris Agreement. I currently look after the monitoring and evaluation framework, so it's a very data-focused job, which I really, really enjoy. It's not my background at all, but I've come to really, really love that aspect. I have to say that my path to this point has not been very clear or very straight. I spent many years working on an Italian island. I worked on boats for a couple of years. I've definitely not been one of those people to have a fixed career goal or a 5-year plan. And if any of you out there also feel as though you don't 100% know what you're doing or where you're going to end up, I can definitely say there's nothing wrong with that. So please don't worry too much. But what I have always really, really been interested in is people and why we do the things we do. And so I ended up studying anthropology as a bachelor. And I also studied languages, Italian, French, and German, I guess because I wanted to understand people linguistically as well as theoretically. But in any case, anthropology covered elements of sustainability, which I was really interested by. And like Vicente also said, somehow challenged by, I think. And that eventually led me to look for a master with a sustainability focus, and like many other people here, I ended up in Lund in Sweden to study sustainability science at Lund University. And then from that point, I've now transitioned into the UN after doing an internship with them, with the same team I work for now. I guess I'd just like to sum up by saying, and others have already touched on this, but what I really value about sustainability science is this idea of transdisciplinarity. And this is essentially how I work now on an almost daily basis. So we have about 50 countries that we work with, and there's a huge range of stakeholders with different backgrounds and from different disciplines. And I think it's really important and interesting to work with all of these different people and understand how this idea of co-creating knowledge, I think, is really important. And I would say that as well as that, what will likely keep me in the realm of sustainability science, or what I really love about it, is not just that it's critical, but that it also offers or attempts to offer a way forward, which is something that I really enjoyed from my bachelor, and I also try to apply now in my work. So yeah, I'll leave it there, hand over to the next speaker.
Thank you so much, Lauren. And it's great to hear about this offering a way forward, and also the niche, and that there is a necessity for this kind of specialist, because I also receive very often questions like, is it worthwhile studying sustainability? And of course, I have limited experience, and listening, talking with people from Brazil and abroad, it's very rewarding and encouraging to really pursue this career. So our last presenter is Jorge. Please correct me if I pronounce your name correctly or not. Jorge, yes? Okay.
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah, great. So, well, good evening or good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Jorge Castro. First of all, it's very flattering to be part of a wonderful group of sustainability professionals, and a very tough act to follow, by the way. So I hope I manage to remain interesting. But I'll try to keep it short and sweet, since the interesting part will be the discussion, right? I'm originally from Guatemala. I'm half Spanish, half Guatemalan, so I grew up with a mixed background, and I started my career studying mechanical engineering, thinking that I wanted to go into energy. And while in Guatemala, I had a few interesting experiences that opened my eyes in many regards related to sustainability. So I decided to study abroad, finding a program that could open my horizon in that way. Always thinking that I would eventually end up in green energy or something like that. So I found, surprise, surprise, the sustainability science program in Lund University. And needless to say, that program kind of transformed my entire interest. So it really opened my array of interest there, and I decided to take a much more broad look at sustainability. So after working a little bit in e-commerce, in a startup in e-commerce, where I kind of tried to force my way into the CSR agenda, corporate social responsibility, agenda of the company, and a difficult company, since it was focused on growth. And finally, managing a way to establish something, I managed to find an opportunity in public government in the UK. So I moved to a very small 20,000 people town in the middle of the Midlands in the UK, trying to work as a sustainability or sustainable development officer, kind of managing a particular project in the food industry, trying to raise the food industry of the borough, and modernizing a little bit and incentivize, creating policy intervention packages that incentivize the region. It was a very interesting experience. It kind of developed a lot of my skills related to bridging public and private interests. And I learned quite a bit, but then of course the political situation back then changed a lot, since it was around the time of the referendum. So my role started to shift quite a bit, and it became a little bit, well, quite different. So I decided to look outside, and I found an opportunity in IKEA. For those who don't know what IKEA is, it's a big home furnishing company based in Sweden. And I worked in the sustainability department as an impact developer or an impact leader, basically trying to measure IKEA's impact on society. The first time that IKEA was taking a look at this. So a very broad and intimidating role, since nobody could really tell me what to do or how to do it. And basically connecting with other sustainability professionals, we were trying to figure out how to measure value creation for companies. and on different dimensions, right? Social, environmental, and economic, on customers, co-workers, and communities. So those were really interesting 4 years. And eventually I wanted to move to a different industry, knowing that the food systems are so interesting. Then I found an opportunity in a small Swedish company called Oatly. They produce oat products, or oat milk especially, trying to find good substitutes for dairy. And knowing that the food system in the world takes such a big chunk of the emissions, Oatly wants to tackle that a little bit and try to create a plant-based movement, a plant-based revolution, as they call it, to incentivize people to eat more plant-based. So what I do there as a sustainability engagement specialist is to try to make all the information accessible and accurate for everybody in the company, to create the capacity that we need in order to create change and make impactful actions over there. We take a look a lot of on aspects of behavior and behavior change, so that the interventions or the initiatives that we create actually have the biggest impact possible, while still remaining fun and accessible as a company. We want to bring awareness to this important issue. So I'll leave it there, since I'm very interested in diving into the discussion, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Jorge. So let's get it started now. Well, let's go to the first question. What makes a sustainability scientist? Is it education? Is it practice? Is it both? Is it none? Other? Just to make a I'd like to make a quick link to what was already said. For example, Vicente, you mentioned a very interesting point, that the people that we should listen and engage with people that do not have the education. And I think you were telling in the context of transdisciplinarity. So we are that the idea of sustainability science is to bring the different disciplines together, but also those that do not have any discipline. And I was wondering whether this can translate also to the fact that sustainability scientist does not need formal education in sustainability science. So far here we have 6 speakers that have formal education in sustainability science from Sweden. So it's 6-1 to Brazil. Diego almost, and we have a bunch of new sustainability scientists from CSRio soon. But still, we are niche. How do we think about sustainability scientists, even to encourage? Because if we say, well, I will let you speak, I will let you talk, because yes, Bruna, you should be able to make me to mute me, because it's I would like to give the space to you. So please do. I will put the timer, so 10 minutes, and please feel free. With not every question, everybody will be able to speak, but I will be juggling that.
Well,
all right.
I think... Do you want to go?
Cool. Yeah.
Do you want to go, Maria?
Yeah, I have a short point on it.
So go.
So I think I think it depends a bit what we mean with sustainability scientist, because I think I mean, I'm not in the academic world, but you know, being a scientist is something particular. But taking action for sustainability, that I don't think you need to have a sustainability background for. I think actually that's one of the fastest way to gain more action in the sustainability sphere, is also realizing that if you do what you do really good, no matter if that is being a salesperson or being a marketeer or operating a truck or whatever you do, if you do that for a company or an organization that works towards sustainability, you're still contributing. So I don't think you need to have a sustainability scientist background to contribute to a more sustainable society. But I do think that sustainability scientists have a very, very important role to point out the direction. What's the direction we should go for? How should we incorporate all of these complexities so we know that the direction we're taking is good? And that, of course, includes also then taking in information from people without formal education, to go back to the start of the question.
Yeah, I agree with Maria, actually, and it's complementary what I'm going to say. I think it can come from practice, also from the academic. It doesn't matter, and also knowledge comes from different places. But yeah, for me, it's about what do you do with the information, with the knowledge that you have, so how you can translate it to people. Because, well, if you have a knowledge, but you don't know how to make people hear you or understand you, nothing's going to happen. You know, we need a lot of people. We need a lot of connections to make bigger movements and to go towards a more sustainable way of living. So I think it's all about, yeah, from my perspective, communication has a very important role, and how you can translate the knowledge in a way that people can understand it and can connect to it and can feel that they can actually do something. Because also from behavior change models, you can see that lots of behavior change models that comes from different thinkers. A lot of them talk about like perception of self-efficacy. So you have to have the perception that you are able to change, that you are able to perform the change. So it's very important to communicate the initiatives and the concepts in a way that people can believe that they are part of the solution. And for example, a few weeks ago, I saw an influencer on Instagram saying, "Oh, people are worried about saving water, but actually the problem is with the big companies and the agriculture because they spend a lot of water." And I understand what that influencer was saying, okay, but in the way she put it, you know, it somehow make people believe that they don't have to do anything, that they are not part of the problem. So I think you have to be very careful when you talk to people, because you can go in the wrong direction. You can make them believe that they don't have to do anything, or that they are not able to do anything. Oh, okay, I won't save water because it doesn't make a difference. And it makes a difference. Well, it can be small, it can be big, but it makes a difference. And I think it's an important perspective when we talk about science of sustainability.
That's so true, Diego. Maybe I can add my 2 cents on that. Yeah, I really believe that as sustainability scientists, there's a deep need for us to translate all this complex information, right? We are dealing with a complex issue. Sustainability is a complex issue, right? We don't have, there's not like a clear line of thought. We have to kind of actually challenge the business as usual, right? And also the classic thinking, right? Or linear thinking, the mechanicist thinking, right? Reductionism. So I really believe that, yeah, I think in a way, trailblazers, if we might. And, I think it also is important, really important, to recognize. I met a lot of sustainability scientists in the favela. It was very beautiful. I think, like I can recall supporting Eva in her research, doing some transcriptions from a theater group in Rocinha, where they clearly outline ecosystemic services. Right? For instance, like having like landslides, connecting it with the deforestation, for instance. So like value the knowledge already and be able to translate this knowledge into more simple terms, and of course having the biggest outreach possible. I think is also part, not working in silos, but actually try to have the biggest outreach possible.
Yeah, I completely agree with everyone's comments so far. I guess in my mind, it's interesting to think about the fact that there isn't a kind of correct path or one path to become a sustainability scientist. I mean, all of us have studied academically, but none of us have studied the same thing. And even or as a bachelor, at least. And I think one thing about sustainability science is that it can be broadly applicable to so many different disciplines. And as other people have said so far, kind of one of the, I think, very important roles of a sustainability scientist or someone working in sustainability science is to kind of be able to act as a mediator between multiple different disciplines. So I think it's what I've found interesting about meeting people in sustainability science and studying sustainability science with a huge range of different people is that it's not like many other professions where you have to study a certain thing to get there, and then you're kind of you might be working in a traditional siloed role. I think what's great and also important about sustainability science is that yeah, it's about bridging gaps, I think, and communication. I would say those are yeah, two really key elements.
That's great. Anybody else would like to add? Eva, Vicencio?
Just a short comment, Aga. Building on what Lauren said, it's you guys can grab Google and just search for, put like a keyword on sustainability that you guys are interested, and you would be surprised the amount of people that is working on stuff that is not part of the academia. I mean, now in the FAO, we're seeing several, more than, I mean, a myriad of organizations from the civil society that work in the field in several topics, and they are doing very nice work, probably better work than us that are closer to the academia. I don't know. So yeah, I wanted to add that there is people already working on it, and very hard.
Yeah, maybe I can also just add a short comment. I think what becomes clear here with all the different participants is that actually more often than not in sustainability science, you see these very interdisciplinary career trajectories where you might start in engineering or economy, and maybe you do a master's in development studies or geography, and then you end up doing research in sustainability science. So actually it becomes very individual which of these titles that you will come to identify with, whether you're an engineer or a geographer or a sustainability science, or whether you will identify as all of them. But I think that's a really, really nice thing about the field, that there's so many possibilities. And then we may also ask, what is science? Is science only limited to the university? Because we see the need to draw on other knowledge systems to address these very complex social environmental problems, like, for instance, climate risk or biodiversity loss. And we're also starting to value more, of course, indigenous knowledge, citizen science. So in the end, I guess if you are working with any of these knowledge systems and you're working to solve complex sustainability problems, I guess that you could call yourself a sustainability scientist.
I also think this evolves so much, this field, that there are so many new job titles that I've never heard before or knew existed, but now they do exist, and I think they're all needed. I mean, one very one title that I see in high demand now is sustainability controller. In my previous job, when I was sustainability manager, I was like, it would be so nice to have like a controller that could help me work with all the data. And now, 2 years later, that's an actual job title that people hire for. So I think, and that, of course, if you come from if you are a business controller today, moving into sustainability controlling, that step is not very far. So it's also an evolving field. Back to what Ebba said, I think can have a lot of backgrounds and also that it would change going forward. Where will the jobs be that we think are related to sustainability?
Wonderful. And with that, Maria, I think we can make a smooth move to the second question, because we just finished 10 minutes and we are perfectly on time, about the skills. So yeah, well, there are few thoughts that I had related to the science itself, and maybe later we can come back to that. And let's now focus on the how. So what are the skills that sustainability scientists should have that are desired by the current and future employees thinking already about future challenges as well? So I think it's again some thoughts from academia, because I'm in that, I'm at the university, and I'm thinking that it is quite challenging for us as professors to constantly follow after what is going on, because sustainability science is focused on problems, and then focusing on problems, bringing solutions, bringing transdisciplinarity, bringing this creative thinking. I think it can be challenging also for us, but I think on the other hand, it's great. So the question is, so what are the skills that sustainability scientists should have, and also how they can be transferred within academia or not, or they can be gained in other sectors, as you said, in other sectors or in other contexts, as Eba, you brought here this other education systems, let's say.
Maybe I would like to bring back, purposefully, I didn't explore very much the slide from the World Economic Forum, so I'm just going to share my screen quite quickly. So I don't know if you came across this report from World Economic Forum. It's actually 10 different skills. I just highlighted that it's the top 6 ones, because I really see like a high correlation with what I've been studying in my master in sustainability and leadership, but also what I've been teaching. And I believe exactly what you're saying, Aga, like it is a lead for like really analytical thinking, really kind of being able to explore an issue from the point of view of like really a systemic point of view, really like a holistic way of understanding the issues and the interconnectivity of different aspects of the issue, complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity. But I also really enjoyed the last one, leadership and social influence. I believe we are seeing right now, because of course the social medias and so forth, an amazing thing, which is like everyone has a voice, kind of. We saw these influencers now in YouTube and so forth. But mainly I haven't been seeing very deep discussions in that realm. Is again like a lot reconnected to materialism and of course those kinds of things. And I believe that's a big opportunity in that, especially for us sustainability scientists, but as the influencers, let's say, you know, and share yeah, again, like the need of really dealing with information in a way that's more responsible and fair, I would say. I'll stop now.
I mean, I can totally agree with these kind of skills. I think they're very important, but I think one thing to keep in mind as well, I mean, an education is just so long. You can't learn everything during it. And I felt, maybe, sorry, Eba, but I felt when I left Loomis, the education I went, I felt I knew nothing about it. I have no skills that I can put into use. But I learned quite quickly that what I have, the most important kind of skill I have, is the mindset. And to me, systems thinking and critical thinking was what I learned during my master's program. And I could like almost physically feel how my brain got rewired from this linear, I studied economics in my bachelor, like linear, boring, backwards way of thinking to kind of my brain adapted to be able to take on challenges. Then, you know, one of the first challenges I had was actually related to soy production in Brazil. I knew zero about that, so which was uncomfortable, but I had the capability to learn fast and understand the complexities of the problem to actually work with it. So I think that is still the most important thing. Then I do think leadership is very important, because I think these people that get educated in this need to be leaders, but also leadership is not for everyone. So we should also, you know, have that in mind, that it has to be driven by your personal interest. Not everyone wants to be a leader, and that's totally fine. We need sustainability professionals in you know, every part, and not everyone needs to be a leader. But one thing that I, you know, probably biased here, but one thing that we see quite a lot of lack of and a high need is understanding data. Like, quite a lot of people that understand these complexities are almost afraid of numerical data and don't really want to work with it. And I think that's going to be so important, because owning data is going to be such a power going forward, or it really is already. So I think that's another one that I would want to add to the list. And you don't need to love data. I mean, the reason why I created this company is that I actually hate data. I just want to see how can I use it for better. But then you can't at least not be afraid of data, I would say. It's probably a good skill to have.
I have a completely contrasting perspective of Lumez and the sustainability science program. In the sense, I mean, I know what you mean when you say you come out of a master's and don't feel like you know anything, but I would say for sure that probably the best skill I learnt that did come out of doing a master's in sustainability science was, and I have to say it's probably not, it's not a result of theory, but it was a willingness to listen, or at least an openness to other ways of thinking. And I think specifically at Lund University, what the program really did was essentially create an environment where there is an element of kind of transdisciplinarity, or where you're in an environment with a huge range of different people with different backgrounds. And even just the act of writing a paper with 6 people who have studied completely different things. You've got a mathematician and an economist, and me, an anthropologist, and having to come together and focus your thoughts to kind of achieve a goal. Even, you know, we're talking about like an academic setting here, but I think that type of setting could equally apply to my workplace right now. And I would say that is probably the best skill that I got out of the master's. It's not necessarily, it wasn't all of the knowledge and all of the cases we learned about. It was that, I think sustainability science, you really need to be willing to listen to other perspectives, even if they are challenging and they go completely against your own perspective, because I think that's the only way that you can actually bring people together is by listening to them and not getting your guard up or back up when you hear a perspective that is different to your own.
Yeah, I mean, taking that medicine at once, I just want to say, Lauren, I agree with your perspective as well. I also felt that I learned a lot, and I love that master education. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, I second that opinion. I think I as well, one of the biggest lessons that I got from that education was the ability to develop my critical thinking, as well as be open to understand the context that you're actually dealing with, right? So when I went there, I came from a very traditional way of education that we had in Guatemala, thinking that Sweden was so far ahead in everything related to sustainability. And when having the conversations with people from all over the world, I realized that, well, the recipes that the developed world had in certain challenges that did not really resonate to the challenges that we had in some aspects in the developing world. So, and people that had that experience over there actually had a lot to offer. So that openness, like you say, Lauren, to listen to different perspectives is one of the things that is quite key. And it's connected to the ability to be able to engage and to manage your stakeholders as in whatever it is that you're going to dive into, whatever challenge related to sustainability you want to dive into. I think is quite transferable, and it's something that could be interesting to develop. But like you say, Maria, it's everybody's different, and everybody should craft their role depending on their strengths, right? So try to leverage those strengths into actually creating the biggest impact that you have, and orient the role that you're going to have into something that kind of matches those strengths. but at least when you, at least in my experience, when I started my career in sustainability, I realized that it was very difficult to get my foot in the door, because, well, there's different companies, different organizations value different things, and when you don't have the strength and the experience perhaps to offer at the beginning, or the evidence to actually show that you have those traits, it's very difficult to get your foot in the door. So in my experience, it was very important to be able to, in whatever job that you end up having, or whatever project that you embark on, to really craft that role into something that that changes it into something sustainable, turns the whole experience and the whole responsibility towards a positive change. And that will teach you a lot, and you can actually from there actually have a stronger platform to elevate your and take the next step in your career.
Thank you so much. Some common thoughts on the question too are critical thinking, interdisciplinarity, this open-mindedness, which I think it's very difficult. And I think that even for teaching sustainability science, because in some way we have to be leaders, we have to show, we have to direct, but at the same time we have to stay open-minded. So I would say it is challenging. It is challenging to listen, and it's difficult when somebody else is challenging what you think is right. And then I will go to the last question, which I think is linked, because I think it was Gabrielle at the beginning of the second question. You mentioned about the leadership and influencers, that very often now the influencers are the leaders, but it makes me think also that we need this informed leadership, because there is so much fake news that what can we follow, how can we follow, and that leads to the third question: how can we be more sustainable as sustainability scientists, as people, as not sustainability scientists? How can we put sustainability in practice?
Maybe I'm going to start again. Sorry, but it's interesting. I think just to make a connection with what has been said, the last question regarding the listening, right? The levels of listening we have to operate from to have the open-mindedness, right? The very interesting tool that I often use might be interesting for you as well in your work, called deep listening. It's a work from Professor Otto Scharmer for MIT, and I often use this methodology to really get people reflecting about what the levels of listening, right? What they're operating from in every conversation they have during the day. I guess it's very important to understand that we are operating with an outdated software, if I might say. We are still, I don't know whoever heard about the cognitive biases, right? So we are in a very modern society, of course, but our brains are still in the cave age, right? It's still us and them. Like we're still we're thinking that we were threatened by diversity, right? Like we are, xenophobic. We are like every single person. If you're not challenging this cognitive bias that we have every day, you can never reach that open-mindedness that we are talking about. So I believe that first of all, recognizing our own biases and recognizing our own worldviews, but also being empathic in our communication with anyone, right? Like I think very clear, and I think that maybe like an example that everyone can receive, we have this big crack between left and right and so forth. And I'm really trying to test this way of being more open-minded and speaking more empathically. And there's also something very interesting that I learned during my master, actually, with the yes and. So even if you're talking with anyone, have a very different worldview from you, something that you can't really accept. If you're trying to bring new information into the system, try to use this, like try to find something that you both can agree on, right? So you say, yes, I can agree with this, this, and this, and instead of but, try to say like, yes, and don't you think that this, like always try to kind of play with these cognitive biases that are always there, and to break these barriers, right? Like, yeah, that a lot of people are receiving fake news, like my mother and my father, for instance, right? My auntie and everyone, like, so really try to come from a space where you put yourself in each other's shoes, right? The other person's shoes, and try to understand what are the experiences that molded their worldview. And from their space, only try to understand how to bring new information into the system.
Thank you. Vicente?
Thank you. In my opinion, I think that for societies to become more sustainable in general, we should have more spaces to reflect. Because if you think, we are now reflecting and discussing, and it has been a very nice discussion, but we're an elite. We're like a small percentage of people that can sit and talk about this. I mean, 80–90% of people around the world don't have time to sit and discuss these kind of things. I mean, most of the people work all day and they don't even know what sustainability is. So we expect that people live more sustainable. We should start creating spaces for people outside this world, our close world sustainability, to get to know what it is. I love these discussions. I mean, you sit with people and say, what is sustainability? What are we trying to sustain? These are super basics, and we take for granted the answers, but we actually don't know them. Maybe many of us don't know them because it's not easy. I mean, it took me like 2 years to understand the response to that question, because it's not easy. It's not just, I think that the typical response that sustainability is like putting social, economic, and which is the environmental spheres together. I think it's super basic, and it's super, it doesn't assure like a real sustainability, if I say something. But maybe I'm becoming too critical now. But my main point is that we need these spaces for people to reflect what it is and what are we going as a society. That's it.
Thank you, Diego.
Yeah, actually, I agree with Vicente. I think first we talked a lot about hearing, so it's important to hear. But I think also there is something that it's connected to hearing. It's the idea that we won't always agree. So I think it's important for us as a community to understand that we are different and we have different thoughts, and we have to embrace, you know, the other thoughts, so we can come to maybe a different conclusion. Not my conclusion, not yours, a third one that can be even better. So, and I think that actually adds to what Vicente was saying, because yeah, when you get the chance to talk to other people, you can see that, well, their idea of sustainability, their idea of ways of changing what's happening, it's different, and it's important for us to get to know those perspectives, you know, those ways of thinking. And also, I think that there is a concept of spiral of silence. So that something that people are not discussing. You know, people feel if you don't see like influencers or politics or people that are important for you discussing a topic, you have the impression that you shouldn't talk about it, because, you know, you can be excluded from the group if you start talking about something that people are not talking about it. So I think to make it a more sustainable society, we have to talk about sustainability like whenever we get the chance. So you are in a bus and you get the chance to have a conversation with someone, maybe someone you don't know, you can talk about sustainability with them. You are on the beach and there is someone by your side, and then we start a conversation. Why not talking about sustainability sustainability. You know, we shouldn't make it more like a day-to-day conversation, because nowadays it's something that we stop to talk about it. But we shouldn't stop to talk about it. It should be something like, oh, it's raining today. You know, like it should be something that we would be able to talk about in a bar, or, you know, in a restaurant, you know, with people that we just met. And I think when we do that, we reinforce the idea that it's something that it's approachable, and it's something that people can start doing it in their everyday lives.
A super short comment to what you just said. I think that's also one way of reaching, you know, scale fast, is to talk to more people about it. So I definitely agree with your point that this needs to be more of a part of an everyday conversation. And I mean, one challenge I feel personally sometimes is that it's sometimes hard to have these conversations without being, you know, without being perceived as judging. So I have friends that fly, for example. I avoid flying. And as soon as we get into vacation, you know, plans, I can feel kind of their reluctance. And I have never said anything about their choice of flying. I just have expressed my choice of not flying. And I think that's sometimes hard to kind of discuss those kind of topics and try to meet at an equal wavelength. But I think it's very important to get to better understanding and learning new things, but also spreading knowledge and reaching scale.
Great. Anybody else would like to add? Otherwise, I would like to now open for discussion. I've seen that there is already chat going on, and Bruna, I think you're helping with so yeah, there is a question of Peixoto, yeah, Peixoto, how the COVID advent impacted the achievements of the sustainability efforts in all of scenarios in the world, and based on your point of view, how the society can retake the plans, the way and commitments of SDGs aligned. Well, it is on the chat, but I will maybe, if you permit, Peixoto, I can unmute you as well if you would like to add something. Otherwise, if somebody would like to answer, so how COVID advent impacted the achievement of the sustainability efforts?
Actually, hello everybody.
Hello.
Actually, I'd like to share with you my experience with this, because of my point of view during the last 2 years, since this unfortunately event that we have in the worldwide. So I believe that a lot of resource is completely disappeared on the out of budgets to face all of change in this sustainable agenda, no, for every scenario, for every activity in the worldwide, not only on the private sector, but I believe on the public sector as well, right? Mainly to interrupt a lot of public policy to face all of challenge in order to achieve the sustainable development growth, no, in the worldwide aligned with the 2030 agenda of ONU, right? So I believe that in our point of view, how we can retake the force to join together a lot of resources in order to guarantee the journey to achieve the sustainable development goals aligned with this 2030 agenda. I'm clear? just to understand and also to obtain more arguments.
Sure.
To learn with you. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have a thought, but I'm not sure it's correct. But my reflection has been that I think kind of the COVID pandemic was a very it was not a good event, but it was a good event in the sense that it was very clear in highlighting injustices and inefficiencies in the system. So, I mean, a very simple example: who has access to vaccines and not? And I think we had a very, very good learning opportunity as a society in the COVID pandemic of how vulnerable we are when we're not thinking long term, when we're not listening to different perspectives, when we're not working together. But unfortunately, I think we didn't really learn from it. That's at least what my feeling is, that not much has changed. I think it was very evident that there's so many weaknesses in the systems, but I don't see a lot of action coming out of it or learnings coming from it. Maybe that comes a bit in hindsight when the pandemic we have a bit of perspective to it, but so far I'm not very positive that this pushed us in the faster trajectory or more of the right direction. But very just opinion, and I'm not sure if it's correct.
Yeah, I'm also gonna just add my 2 cents here. I think, like Maria said, it was a terrible event that we all went through. Some people actually went through it in a worse way than many others, and it brought to the surface those difficulties and those inequalities. I think at the same time, there's important things to note that it brought a lot of people together, and in the sense of how to actually reach a solution in a fast way. And also brings to the surface the fact that in an increasingly interconnected world, a problem like this will affect us all. And more of these challenges are actually going to come, where we can't just say that it's going to be just a group of people affected. It will affect everybody. And we do have the ability and certain infrastructure out there to be able to tackle world problems like climate change, like biodiversity loss, like extreme land use and things like that. So we do have the means for it. We just need to actually get together and talk about it. So I think we haven't reached the point, like Maria said, to really look back and get the best learnings out of this and actually address the gaps, the big gaps and the big flaws that we have in different institutions and different practices and policies and all that. But I think in many ways, a lot of people are going to realize that we do have the means and we do have the resources to actually address these world challenges.
Just jumping on the back of that, I completely agree with both comments so far. And I've thought about this a little bit in terms of, yeah, for sure, COVID has shown that, well, it's brought a lot of people together, and it's shown that like change on a very dramatic scale is possible. But I think the key difference between COVID and something like climate change is the timelines we're talking about here and the immediacy. So I think the gap that we need to think about is how can we inspire change or like create change, or at what point does change become necessary when we're not having people dying today and tomorrow and the next day? I think COVID was very much that it had this immediate, like there was a necessity to do something about it right now. And I think the problem with climate change is that it's so easy to think about it as a future problem, a problem for future generations, even though, I mean, the science is telling us that that's not necessarily the case. We are seeing impacts now. It's just those impacts aren't enough to kind of push this huge worldwide response. And I think that's, yeah, to me, that's the key difference is like, how do we make climate change an issue of now that does require such a global effort now, not in 10 years' time?
Yeah, definitely agree with Laura as well. I think there's a completely different problem, right? We don't need a vaccine, right? In terms of COVID and climate change, like we need like a array of different solutions. not only on technology. I believe that with SDGs, there's some fundamental also like is a framework. For me, is the most comprehensive framework that was achieved so far, the framework that gained the most momentum also, and I think not only on the government sector but also on the private sector, which is interesting. But from my experience, especially in the business sector, there's a lot of organizations, some piggy bank, or like really trying to bring the sustainability development goals into sustainability reports, just to put some colorful little squares and what are the specific targets, right? Like that we need, and also understanding that this is not a framework constructed for business, right? So there are some issues that I think we need to solve on that. And I also believe that with COVID, it's interesting because it's a break building, and the concept of building back better, and the European Green Deal in Europe, of course, like the countries to really look into sustainability as a way, like the European, as a way of as a lens of really really molding the financial packages, the financial resources that are being deployed on every country. They will only be available if there is a focus on sustainability, right? I think that's also the case with North America as well. So there's an opportunity, I think, after COVID of really putting some structures to normalize sustainability in those types of governmental investments in infrastructure.
Okay, thank you. Well, we are slowly getting to the end of our event. I would like to point I would like to ask the speakers if you have any final thoughts, remarks. Has anything changed in your mind before the event, and now having this discussion and listening? You were saying that it's a very important part, to listen to others. Do you think something changed in your thinking? You've learned something, and if you'd like to say some final words, please do feel free now, and then we'll get to our final closing stage.
I want to say something on that. Personally, I'm super happy to be part of this and to see regional initiatives. Because I'm from Chile and I learned sustainability in Sweden, and of course you see that Sweden, it's first world and developed country and all that. So coming back and to see these initiatives in my region is very interesting, and I think that's very nice, Aga, and I'm looking forward to get to know better the program there. So I think it's very nice. I feel super great to be discussing with you guys, with people from Brazil. It's very special.
Thank you so much, and likewise.
I'd just like to say that I feel very inspired by everybody's story and how they grew in the sustainability space. I think it's really great. I'm very happy to be part of this group and to see so much interest in an event like this. So it's very it gives a lot of hope to a sustainability professional like me. So I appreciate you guys for organizing a space like this.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I don't know who said it before, but like we are a quite small group still of sustainability professionals or professionals to be in any sense, and I think it's very, very energetic to speak to other people in this still small group, because you have challenges that you will understand that others won't. So I really appreciate coming together like this. And I think it's, my personal reflection is that I think it would be probably beneficial for myself and also for the work I do to do this more often, to kind of get out of the busy day-to-day work and actually reflecting again, wait a second, why did I go into this space? What competences do I need to go forward? Who can I ask? Who should I talk to? How should I listen better? So thanks a lot for inviting me, and really great being part of this community.
Wonderful, and I actually encourage everybody to do this exercise. I think these 3 questions, you might have follow up actually, because the events, the seminars are series. So actually well, I will talk about it later, but we will have continuation of that, thinking about the future generation, early career sustainability scientists, based on work that we will do in secondary schools in Rio de Janeiro. So I think there will be some more reflection on that, and indeed how we can help to make more sustainability scientists via education, formal education, or experience, or playing games. Gabriel, Diego, no, sorry, Vicente, Edba, anybody else, Lauren, would like to say?
Yes, well,
no, really, go
do you want to talk?
Go ahead.
No, I just want to thank everybody. And I think for me, the highlight today, it's the connections. You know, we have, although we come from different backgrounds, I think all of our works have connections, and I think we should use that more. I think we should, for example, Maria with the data. And so I think we should keep going, you know. It's great to have the conversation. It opens our minds, and it makes us think about different ways of moving. But well, I think my head is thinking about how can we help each other, you know? How can we help our initiatives, and how can we help each other work to go bigger, to go to different places of the world, to reach different audience and people. So yeah, for me, the highlight today is the connections and everything that we can do together.
Nice one, Diego. No, I just wanted to say I really resonate with what Maria was saying. I think we often do a very energy-intensive, exhausting job, really, to bring new information to like C-level executives, telling them that, like, of course. And I guess like spaces like that, like when you preach to the choir, right? Like, or talk to people that really get what you mean, is very important. And I think to also cross-pollinate ideas, and as Diego was saying very well, to connect, right, with people that we have this richness of transdisciplinarity in our core as sustainability scientists, and why not use it for, yeah, making our work even more effective. So that's great. Congratulations, Book Rio, for this initiative. I again, very like that happening in Brazil, and I just can't, yeah, help myself but dream and see what's gonna happen in the future. And yeah, count on me, and yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Gabriel. It was cutting a little bit. I'm not sure if it was only for me, but I think we got the spirit of your talk.
Yes, I also just want to jump in and say thank you to everybody. It was a really nice discussion, and so nice to see so many familiar faces of people who have been students while I was a teacher, and that you are doing such amazing things. It's so inspiring for me. And I think, I don't remember also who said it, but you know, in the 21st century, things change so fast, and there will all the time be new concepts or methods or certification schemes or whatever that people will need to learn throughout their career in sustainability. And I think, as we see here today with a lot of you, that the role for the university, I think, is really to create these self-regulated learners who can kind of confidently sift through the mass of information that is out there today to acquire what they need to solve the problems at hand. So it's really nice to see that all of you are doing that.
Anybody else? I will later address the questions in chat. I would just like not to go more over the time that we planned, so 6:45, because our speakers are from, I don't know, it's 11 p.m. in some of the yeah, I think in Sweden, yeah, it's 11 p.m. So yeah, we can stay. So anybody that would like to stay here, we can stay and chat. We can do it in English or in Portuguese. No, anybody else from the speakers would like to contribute? Any final remark? It's very funny because I was very stressed because it's the first seminar, and well, I was excited and a bit yeah, anxious to have sustainability scientists which studied sustainability science, because I can call myself sustainability scientist by practice, but I did not have this pleasure to study. So I'm very very honored, and I would like to thank you so much once again. And it leaves me very peaceful actually at the end. So I think the spirit of listening, of being reflective, it's very important, and this respect, and I think it's so much needed in a hectic world that is full of information, that is full of yeah, news all the time, stimulation. So I think that that can be in spirit of sustainability science, and this being open-minded and sometimes like stepping back, listen, think. So thank you so much once again. I do hope we keep in touch. This series of CSRio, eu vou repetir tudo isso depois em português também. But just to finalize, the seminars occur every 2-3 weeks. And actually the next one will be on the 7th of April, and it will be on indigenous knowledge. So we will have another round table with some showcasing of sustainability science from other perspectives. So please save the date, 7th of April. And we have here at the round table one representative of our Mestrado professional MSc in sustainability science. Is the first in Brazil, and we have now subscriptions open until the 18th of April. So if anybody is interested, I will put the links later on our center, CSRio, and also on Mestrado, on the professional MSc. I will also leave my email, so I will actually do it now. And then I will just say this in Portuguese, and then pick up on some questions that appeared here. So who wants to leave? Thank you so much once again for your time, contributions, and please do keep in touch. And for who would like to stay, please feel free. Então, muito obrigada a todas e todos pela participação. Eu falei que quando eu comecei esse seminário, esse evento, eu fiquei muito estressada, porque temos ainda vários palestrantes prominentes, e aí eu mesmo não tenho uma formação formal em ciência de sustentabilidade. Eu não considero cientista de sustentabilidade pela prática, mas enfim, por ser o primeiro evento, por ser um evento importante, com 7 palestrantes importantes, eu fiquei bem estressada, mas eu saio desse evento muito tranquila. Eu acho que as mensagens que foram passadas da tranquilidade, de habilidade de ouvir outra pessoa, de ficar com a cabeça aberta, eu acho que são as habilidades que é muito difícil praticar nesse mundo cheio de informações, cheio de estímulos, cheio de news and fake news. Mas essa conversa me deixa mais tranquila. é também otimista, que é mesmo que nós somos no nicho, estamos crescendo, tem necessidade, o mercado está crescendo para profissionais que trabalham em ciência de sustentabilidade. Então, eu acho que bom, pensando até sobre futuras gerações, pensando sobre meu filho, eu estou conversando com vocês, eu sei que ainda somos poucos, mas me dá esperança para o futuro mesmo, então gostaria de agradecer pela essa positividade nesse mundo que não é tão positivo. Nem sempre é. Agora eu vi que tem algumas perguntas aqui, uma interessante. Bom, eu vou, na verdade, agora a gente tinha. How do I unmute? Vocês sabem como eu faço isso? Ah, não? Alguém pode me ajudar? Porque a gente ask all to unmute. Ah, ok, agora eu acho. Vocês conseguem? Se alguém gostaria de falar alguma coisa ou colocar alguma pergunta além do chat? Eu vi meu nome num lugar aqui. Can anybody comment on this? Lucas Lima, I have a burning question. Just have a look at it. Do you prefer I respond in English or in Portuguese, Lucas Lima Ortando? Você ainda está aqui? Are you here? Well, I think it's actually at the by the definition, sustainability science is constructed to inform better decision making. So we said that it's problem oriented, and I would hope that via tools and this complex system thinking, we will be able to talk with decision makers. So yeah, I know that actually I'm not sure. Well, sustainability science is flourishing and blossoming very beautifully and widely. Well, I would hope so. I would hope. I really hope that it's blossoming and flourishing, and maybe when we reach a certain momentum, then we will be able to get to decision makers, because I think for now, as it was also said here, we are still in a niche. Sustainability science is still a niche. I don't know if there is anything else. Ok. Pode ser, ok, Lucas, pode ser em inglês, ok. Eu não sei se isso respondeu. Bom, então, gente, mais uma vez, muito obrigada. Espero que tenha ainda troca aqui. Eu vou deixar também para rolar. Muito obrigada a todas e todos. E aí, até a próxima. A gente vai enviar Save the Date. E aí, ao longo desse semestre, até o último seminário que vai acontecer em meados de junho, sobre futuros Future Early Career Sustainability Scientists. E aí a gente vai mostrar resultados de pesquisa dentro do projeto FAPERJ, que eu estou coordenando, sobre comunicação e interação com escolas municipais no Rio. Então, tem vários outros. Então, muito obrigada pela presença. Fiquem com saúde, fiquem bem. E até a próxima. Tchau, tchau.